Hello, my friends, my dear patrons. Hope you're all doing really well. Today, I just wanted to take a moment to react to some thoughts that Mick shared with me, and I thought that his thoughts were worth sharing with us. Now, I'm doing this not completely without his permission, so if he tells me afterwards, please take down this video, I will. But I just thought, okay, what are some other interesting ways of interacting with the Patreon community? I know you guys are always saying you want to support me because you want to support me, but I just think there's ways to, to kind of make this community dynamic. Now, Mick's been sharing a lot of thought on the INFJ with me. There's an interesting thought that I thought I would react to, and it's this idea that he has that contemporary society, which I've been talking about in my videos quite a bit lately. I'm not going to return to all the things that I said, but one of the things that he says is that it's defined by a sense of widespread inauthenticity, right? And this is something that I think will speak to us, that it's defined by the herd morality, which Nietzsche talks about, and that following the herd and inauthenticity obviously are two concepts that combine together. And the problem with the INFJ is that again, this is Mick's view, which is not that distant from mine, but there is something in the INFJ's makeup, particularly the fact that an icon connects him or her or them to kind of timeless archetypes, in the psyche, just makes the INFJ at the phenomenal level of experience particularly sensitive to these trends, and therefore also all the more sensitive to the fact that they themselves may submit to the herd in order to have an easier life at some level, but also more, self-hate perhaps, or self-doubt, and the lack of self-esteem for allowing themselves to submit, because they have this higher sensitivity. So that's an first interesting thought that I wanted to share. But what I find fascinating is that, I'm reading this book, A Secular Age, which I recommended in a previous video to you guys. And the Secular Age has this whole chapter or series of chapters dedicated to what Taylor calls the age of authenticity. So if you like, he has this kind of religious focus as a theme, but the religion taken as a very broad concept, and divided it into three main, we're talking about the West here, three main ages: the age of tradition, ancien régime, old forms, where religion was very much imbricated within society and was indistinguishable from it in some sense. Not distinguishable, but impossible to extricate from society, because everything made sense in terms of the religious mindset, lifestyle, and so on. The age of mobilization, where religion begins to be seen as a project that many people kind of start together and mobilize together to create something that didn't exist before. So it's not necessarily an expression of society, it happens within society, but it can be new forms. So what Taylor explains is that in the United States, that is very, very prevalent, and partly, perhaps, at least that's his hypothesis, one of the reasons why religion in the United States has been so resilient in the face of modernity as opposed to in Europe, is that the US was never completely familiar with the old traditional forms. It almost began at the mobilization stage, and that the mobilization stage survives the decline of religious practice to a large extent, because, at least, if you like, in Europe, one of the strongest arguments about religion is its history of association with the state and the structures of oppression that belongs to the traditional stage. If you don't have that traditional stage, well, the critique kind of lacks bite, and people can resist and continue considering religion or religious practice very legitimate. So that's kind of his view, one of his hypotheses for why religion continues to be vibrant in a lot of American communities, US communities. But that was an aside, because that's a very interesting thought that Taylor has. But the age of authenticity, and Taylor remains, he suspends judgment as to whether this authenticity is real or not. But it is true, right, that nowadays everything, the prism for people is to search their more authentic self. And the approach to spirituality is through this marketplace of faith where someone can just come in and say, okay, what is more authentic to me? This is what I want to do. I'm someone who, a lot of people actually realize that they don't want to be atheist, that it doesn't satisfy them, there's something lacking, subjectively and objectively. And they will sort of go and look, maybe they don't have a sort of strong grounding in religion to begin with. Of course, a lot of people, including in the States, will, but others may not. And so they will just explore different paths, a lot of Eastern paths, but also maybe then coming back to more Christian paths or Muslim paths. But it's defined around this idea, it has to be authentic to me. And authenticity is kind of always beating down our eardrums all the time. And that's why what Mick is saying is really interesting, is that, if you like, what he's saying is that behind this authenticity, in a way, is felt, is real. Some people think they're authentic, but they're unwittingly or inadvertently, unbeknownst to themselves, they're actually following the herd. They're following the slogans of authenticity. So that's really interesting, and really interesting thought, including when it comes to practice of religion in the modern age. Because does that mean that a lot of people who do explore these paths are actually not that authentic and are following herd mentalities? I have to say, and this is perhaps painful to hear for some people, but it is my impression, for example, that a lot of people who start being very into New Age stuff or Eastern religious stuff, independently of the quality and richness of these traditions, a lot of people in the West who find themselves following these supposedly as a path of self-exploration, they're following the herd mentality as well. It's because it's cool to do. It's because it's a trend. So, what is the place of INFJs in relation to this? Are they falling into this trend completely? Because it's undeniable that some INFJs are leading inauthentic lives, from defined in this way. Because leading an authentic life into this society, a genuinely authentic life, is very hard. You just read Kierkegaard, he predicted everything, right? Read Kierkegaard, either or, the sickness unto death, and if we want to an even more Christian kind of lens through which he analyzes these situations, you can read Fear and Trembling. But either or is great. Is the INFJ then sensitive to this lack of authenticity, but also perhaps to the fact that there is still a highly developed discourse of authenticity as a facade for the lack of it? And what can INFJs do to counteract this? Is it through reading and publishing books? These days, not many people read, so could it be more so through creating YouTube channels? Should you guys all start YouTube channels? Should more INFJs start YouTube channels? Should there be more collaboration? Should they try to go into politics? Is that a complete dead end for all the reasons that we might list? Art, cinema, what are the ways? What can we do? This is an open question, but very interesting to think of inauthenticity in an age that is obsessed with the idea of authenticity. I want to know your thoughts about this. And again, thanks to Mick for his ruminations, which are much richer than this, but that's the angle I chose to take. So thank you for being such a loyal supporter, guys. Helps so much. I'm very grateful. See you soon.